Welcome to Reporting Scotland. Tonight, Alex Salmond under pressure over independence.
Have you sought advice from your own Scottish law officers in this matter?
We have, yes, in terms of the debate, and obviously...
And what do they say?
The First Minister denies opposition claims he lied in that BBC interview about legal advice over EU membership.
I thought a suitable opportunity, those admittedly outside this chamber who have made these assertions will have the courtesy and the integrity to withdraw them.
The First Minister has denied lying over whether his government obtained legal advice on an independent Scotland's potential membership of the European Union. On the day two of his MSPs quit over another issue, Alex Salmond appeared before Parliament after opponents claimed he had said in an interview he had sought legal advice, when it was confirmed today the party had not. Well, in a moment we'll be hearing about those resignations, but first our political correspondent Raymond Buchanan reports on events in Parliament.
Would an independent Scotland stay in Europe? The First Minister has always been confident.
Have you sought advice from your own Scottish law officers in this matter?
We have, yes, in terms of the debate, and obviously...
And what do they say?
Well, you can read that in the documents that we've put forward, which argue the position that would be successful.
And what do they say?
Well, you know, I can't give you the legal advice or reveal the legal advice of law officers.
That seems pretty clear. The advice of law officers was sought. But today, Mr Salmond's own deputy told Parliament this.
The Scottish Government has previously cited opinions from a number of eminent legal authorities, past and present, in support of its view that an independent Scotland...
Order!
In support of its view that an independent Scotland will continue in membership of the European Union, but has not sought specific legal advice.
A political storm brewed, and suddenly the First Minister was on his way to the chamber. Mr Salmond, Labour accused you of lying over the European question, have you?
I'll deal with that in a few seconds in Parliament.
Mr Salmond made an emergency statement to MSPs. He insisted he'd always been consistent, and then accused Labour of selectively quoting his BBC interview.
In one of these partial transcripts, I have been described as a barefaced liar, and the quote that is used to justify this, it says, me saying in response to Mr Neil, we have, yes, ... you know I can't release the legal advice of law officers, Andrew. That misses out 27 words across 3 separate answers.
Mr Salmond, have you clarified the position now?
Oh, I think that's been clarified to the Chamber's satisfaction. It's quite clear I was talking about government documents. I've cited the references to the point. All government documents are subject to being legal and legal advice from the law officers. That's exactly what I was referring to. And no reasonable person could see anything other than that.
He says you selectively edited the transcript to make it look as if he was a liar, and he's not a liar, and if you were being honest about things, you'd accept his explanation.
What I would say to the First Minister is, let's have a full and frank debate in the Scottish Parliament. All we heard today was a statement. It's now time for a debate, and for all of that information to be placed on the table, and for the people of Scotland to have a proper opportunity for all of the legal advice that is received, in whatever context that it was received, and for him to put all of this information on the table.
Nothing Alex Salmond has said this evening clears up the dispute. We've had the First Minister, the Deputy First Minister, members of the government for months telling us they knew what our position would be in Europe. We find out today that they don't know, and in fact they spent thousands of pounds of taxpayers' money trying to keep information from the public about information they've never sought and they've never received. It's a shambles.
Well, let's go now to Holyrood. I'm Raymond Buchanan. I think it would be fair to say not a great day for the SNP there, Raymond.
I think it's probably one of Alex Salmond's worst days since he became First Minister back in 2007. It started with a conversation with those two Highlands and Islands MSPs saying they were quitting the party this evening. I understand there is still another SNP MSP who is considering their position following that very divisive NATO debate. Then we have the First Minister having to rush into the chamber to make a late emergency statement, with this controversy raging over whether an independent Scotland would maintain its membership of the EU. Alex Salmond's explanation for that is he couldn't ask law officers for specific details because he didn't have specific details before the UK and Scottish governments signed off in their agreement last week, guaranteeing a referendum and giving him a pathway to an independent Scotland. Opponents, though, are not satisfied. Why is this so important? Well, we are 2 years away from that independence referendum, but one of the central arguments from Alex Salmond and the SNP is to say, look, we're good at government, we're competent, trust us with health and education, why don't you trust us with tax and foreign affairs too? If he has too many of these bad days, then the chances of him being trusted by the Scottish people in that independence vote, well, they'll look a little bit more dodgy.
Thank you very much, Raymond. The First Minister has denied lying over whether his government obtained legal advice on an independent Scotland's potential membership of the European Union. It came on the day 2 of his MSP's quit over membership of NATO. The Prime Minister has intervened in the row over whether an independent Scotland would remain in the European Union. David Cameron told the Commons he was baffled that Alex Salmond was only now asking his law officers to give their view on the issue. For years, official documents have confidently claimed Scotland would stay in the EU, but the Scottish Government admitted yesterday these claims weren't based on specific legal advice. Our political correspondent Raymond Buchanan reports.
Damaging headlines for the First Minister. Alex Salmond's credibility is being called into question by opponents. They accuse him of misleading the public about whether an independent Scotland would remain in the EU.
We were told, I believe, by the First Minister in Scotland that he had legal advice about Scotland's place in the European Union in the event of independence. It turns out now they didn't have any legal advice at all. And I think what this shows is when you shine the spotlight on the case for separation that the SNP put, it completely falls apart.
For years, official Scottish Government documents have been clear. In 2007, Choosing Scotland's Future said an independent Scotland would continue in the European Union. 2009 saw Your Scotland, Your Voice. It stated an independent Scotland would continue membership of the European Union. And earlier this year, Your Scotland, Your Referendum said under independence, Scotland would have the rights and responsibilities of a normal sovereign state and continue its membership in the European Union. We now know there was no specific legal advice from law officers to back those statements up. As the Prime Minister was speaking at Westminster, SNP MSPs were gathering at Holyrood. Yesterday's resignations over NATO meant there were 2 fewer than before.
No, we just move on, programme for government, dust ourselves down and continue.
As they emerged, I put David Cameron's claims to the Deputy First Minister.
Mr. Sturgeon, the Prime Minister has intervened to say you haven't done your homework, essentially. What do you say to that?
Well, I don't think the Prime Minister's in much position to criticise anybody else. We've just had a fantastic meeting there. We look forward over the next couple of years to putting forward the positive case for independence. We're very confident of winning a yes vote in 2014.
But to win that referendum, the Scottish Government will have to show they are credible in a whole series of areas, including Europe. Their opponents believe this is a weak spot and they're determined to exploit it. Tonight, Labour accusing Alex Salmond of an abuse of power. The Conservatives suggesting Scotland's top law officer, the Lord Advocate, should be summoned before MSPs. Be in no doubt, this row will rumble on. Raymond Buchanan, reporting Scotland, Holyrood.